you. I'd like to have a motion to return to open session, please.
Move.
Motion made by Councilmember Kadesh. Can I have a second? Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Rizzuto. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kadesh.
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy.
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto.
Here.
Councilmember Wetzel.
Here.
Council President.
Yes. Will you all join me for the salute to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before you sit down, we have an employee of the town, lifelong employee, 50 years, I believe it was, Warren Burgess. Will you please have a moment of silence? May God have mercy on his soul. At this point, I'd like to have a motion to go into public comments. Open it up to public comments.
Move.
Motion made by Councilmember Kadesh. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wetzel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anybody who would like to speak, please come up.
Phyllis Feinberg. For the election of mayor that we had approximately 2 years ago between Sally Rinka and Vic Murata, I supported Sally Rinka. During that election campaign, there were numerous discussions among Ms. Rinka, Jean Murphy, her campaign director, and myself. Two of the many topics we discussed were the salary of the mayor and whether or not this job would be full or part-time. Part of the consideration of the salary of mayor was that now, with this new type of government, there would be no town manager. With our new form of government, the mayor would now be responsible for all those decisions formerly made by the town manager. Mr. Jimes, our former town manager, was earning a salary of over $115,000. Ms. Rinka stated a number of times that she thought the mayor's job had to be a full-time job with a salary of about $120,000 a year. Mr. Murata stated that he thought the job might be done as a part-time occupation, but he would reevaluate his conclusion after taking office. Very soon after being sworn into office, Mr. Murata requested a part-time salary of $30,000. I have to assume he thought the job of mayor might be able to be done as part-time work because he was mayor of Vernon about 17 years ago, and at that time it was most certainly a part-time job. He didn't have any of the other added responsibilities he now has. Today, after 2 years in office, he most clearly knows this is a full-time job and needs to be remunerated as such. The recent newspaper articles made a mockery of the fact that Mr. Murata is asking for what they claim as an increase of salary of over 133%. I could be wrong, but I saw no statement that specified the fact that he wants the office of mayor to be paid as a full-time employee of Vernon. The newspapers made it sound just a little too much like our mayor is greedy and wants this enormous salary increase. Shame on the newspapers. I find it most hypocritical of our former mayor and her campaign manager to object to Mr. Murata's request for an increase in salary. He clearly has been working full-time and then some on this job. Even with his request of a salary of $70,000 a year, it is still significantly less than what our former town manager was making. Mr. Jimes just had one set of responsibilities in that job. Now our mayor has those responsibilities of Mr. Jimes, plus all the other things a mayor has to do. I believe that we must fund the office of mayor commensurate with the responsibilities that go with the job. Vernon's mayor is the CEO of our town. What CEO makes $30,000 a year? When we have to select another mayor in the near future, we want to be able to attract talented people to run for that office. This is not the type of job that you can learn as you go. The mayor handles a budget of approximately $25 million a year to run the town. Do you want to reinstate all the problems we had with the former type of government? Do you want to have people running our town that have no idea what they are doing? We have had a decrease in township taxes as well as an increase in services. Do you want to go back to the old way of haphazardly coping with all the things that have to be done to run our town? I don't. It is my opinion that this salary argument has turned into a personal vendetta against Mr. Marotta by both Ms. Rinka and Ms. Murphy. It is time that we stop the bombastic accusations against our mayor and start thinking of what is ultimately good for the long-term growth of Vernon. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
My name is Emil Litwin. I concur with the lady's eloquent words that the job, as a full-time job, is something that requires proper evaluation and to develop a methodology which exists in industry for comparable workloads, number of direct employees, total dollar budget amounts that suggest that a full-time job does require a significant level of increase above what the mayor is currently being remunerated, so that we do have, again, to repeat, the basis for the right people of future, once the mayor decides that he or we choose a new mayor to take his place, that we have the right people in this position. It's an important job. It's a job that we should carefully evaluate insofar as the salary is concerned, using recognized standards so there's no arbitrariness to it that allows for the proper remuneration based on a full-time schedule. Part-time can always be adjusted from that. We're trying to work it the other way. The way it's being characterized is wrong, and he should be properly compensated.
Anyone else like to speak?
Hello. Bonnie Rubin, Highland Lakes. Tonight, the Vernon Council will propose a salary ordinance to give Mayor Marotta a $70,000 annual salary. Income that is 133% over his present salary. In 2011, Mayor Marotta ran for mayor saying he could do the job part-time for a salary of $500 a week. Consequently, after being elected the mayor, he was given a salary of $30,000 a year. In January 2012, less than 1 year into his new administration, the Vernon Council introduced Salary Ordinance 1201, which would increase the mayor's salary by 67% to $50,000. But by way of a petition drive under the Faulkner Act, on Election Day the following November, 87% of registered voters voted no to Salary Ordinance 1201, and it was repealed. NJSA 40A9-167, Referendum on Ordinance Fixing Salaries, Wages, or Compensation, was the statute recognized by Vernon's attorney as applicable to the ballot question of the November 2012 election, which specifically states, the referendum vote shall be binding during the period of 2 years following the vote. In other words, not January 2014, but November 2014, could these salaries, wages, or compensation be revisited or changed? In the interim, Mayor Marotta has seen fit to give performance awards, bonuses, and other monetary increases to many of his employees in violation of this specific statute. Recently, a New Jersey Superior Court judge informed our township attorney that these monetary salary increases were nothing other than compensation, regardless of how they've been renamed.
That's not what happened, ma'am.
For this reason alone, I caution the council to carefully reconsider proposing this ordinance.
Just for the council's benefit, that last statement it did not occur.
We couldn't hear that. I couldn't hear your comment.
I just said the statement attributed to the judge and myself is not accurate. It didn't happen.
What did happen?
Well, it's not my time.
Oh, okay.
Can we clarify the statute?
Sue,
Okay, hang on a second, please.
Oh, in terms, I was also asked by the council president to clarify the applicable referendum statute that we're talking about. And some of you may recall this coming up before when we talked about which statute and which set of rules of two applied to a referendum in this form of government. The answer to that is NJSA 40A:9-165, not -167. I want to have that clear for the record. Any questions about that, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, Mr. Tansfield?
Yes, good evening. My name is Roy Tanfield. I'm a Great Gorge property owner. I'm also an MUA commissioner. I'm addressing the issue of the night and proposed ordinance 1401 to raise the mayor's salary to $70,000 a year. As many know, I have been a critic of the mayor on several issues over the past year, and in fact supported last year's referendum not to allow an increase in his salary to $50,000. Here tonight, however, to tell you that after careful study and I believe fair and objective analysis, I have concluded that this proposed ordinance is justified, and I therefore now support the request for an increase to $70,000. Some may think that I'm saying this because the mayor recently provided me the opportunity to serve as a MUA commissioner. This morning I spent nearly an hour and a half with Chairman Zinno, Director Serbo, and Council John Urson, going over such fun topics like projected cash flow deficits, sewer maintenance issues, and past due collection problems. Meetings like that make my pro bono commissioner award role seem more like a punishment than an award. I can confidently tell you then that there's absolutely no political patronage going on here. Research I obtained from 3 sources, one of which I have in writing with me tonight, indicates that the average full-time salary in New Jersey for towns of Vernon's size is in fact about $70,000 a year. This number was derived from 3 separate databases which contain published mayoral salaries in New Jersey from towns with populations of between 10 and 70 and 50,000 people. The average town size in all of New Jersey is about 16,000 people, with about 80% of all municipalities in the whole state between the 20 and 40,000 population range. Vernon, with 25,000 people, falls right in the middle of this latter data base in terms of population, and therefore, in theory, should be in the middle of average salaries, but it is not. My sources indicate that full-time salaries range from $25,000 a year in very small towns to about $120,000 a year only in the very largest towns like Jersey City. Cory Booker's $200,000 salary last year as mayor of Newark is regarded as an anomaly. But the average in the $10,000 to $40,000 range is about $68,000 a year. The $70,000 salary, therefore, is, in my opinion, statistically consistent with other towns of similar size. I've concluded then that this mayor is, in fact, based purely upon this data, significantly undercompensated. Town budget size, in my view, as others have noted, should not be the sole criterion, because this is a Faulkner Act government, and it means that the mayor is in that role has more direct responsibility than mayors in other non-Faulkner mayors in larger towns and larger budgets. This mayor originally agreed, in fact, to work for $30,000 a year. That was when he rather, I think, naively thought that this would be a part-time job. He has soon learned otherwise, though, as have we. I don't think anyone can claim that he has, in fact, been putting in part-time hours. By way of illustration, several of his constituents in Great Gorge, my neighbors, recently indicated to me that despite having disagreements with him from time to time, he has nevertheless consistently been one of the most accessible mayors they've ever known, and that they have never heard him turn down a single person, even a critic, requesting a meeting in person to discuss any legitimate matter. I can personally attest to the fact that he has also been willing on several occasions to admit to and proactively address and rectify mistakes that may have been made in the past. In summary, then, he is regarded by even some of his toughest critics as a hard-working public servant. Looking at the future, as others have noted, regardless of who runs for mayor next year and laying aside all political issues, a $30,000 salary in this economic environment will not, in my opinion, attract or motivate the best people to even consider running for mayor. Given the workload, the salary may prove to be a deterrent to many otherwise qualified people to even compete in the election at all. By keeping this salary this low, we will then, in effect, be shooting ourselves in the foot. If we want a real horse race in next year's election, we have to be prepared to properly compensate the winning horse. I would also like to point to an editorial published in yesterday's Herald titled, quote, "Reasonable Pay for Vernon's Mayor." This daily newspaper has on several occasions been a critic of the mayor. However, the editor, I believe it's Mr. Tomlinson, wrote, quote, "A salary of $30,000 for the full-time mayor of a town with 24,000 residents and a budget of nearly $23 million may indeed be too low. Finally, I note this increase will be entirely offset by a commensurate reduction in the business administrator's salary. Therefore, I can think of no reason not to authorize it and encourage the council to enact it." Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Good evening, Len Colosia, Great Gorge Village. So according to that logic, Roy, it's okay to, if you don't spend it here, just spend it somewhere else. I believe 2 years ago, the mayor agreed to take this job he was elected to do at the salary he's being paid now. You guys want to raise it? I have no problem with that. But do it the next term, for the next mayor, okay? So that way, we've got a clean slate here. Some of the towns that I've looked up in populations with 20 to 25,000 people, some are 15, some are 25. You're in the ballpark now. But again, if you contracted for that rate with this job, then keep it until it's done. And maybe the next mayor, or if Mayor Murata gets reelected, then start him at a higher salary. Not now. This is the contract. This is the deal. And that's where the elected people determined that to be, right here. Thank you.
Speak?
Good evening. Beth Buds, Chair of Vernon Environmental Commission. I would like to take a minute to thank the mayor for his hard work and dedication to Vernon. In the past year, Mayor Murata has made it his business to be involved in numerous environmental issues on various levels, including the tree selection process for the first DEP No Net Loss grant to Vernon. In late August of 2013, when the trees purchased from the first grant arrived, I called the mayor's office, and within 15 minutes, he was on site to help inspect all 102 tree species. His knowledge and history of Vernon and his enthusiasm about the replanting project was both welcomed and greatly appreciated by the Vernon Environmental Commission. Mayor Murata has also accompanied me on site visits to view the devastating deforestation that took place in Vernon Township in 2011 before he was mayor. It is my personal belief that if Vic Murata had been mayor at that time, Vernon may not have lost all of the 53,000 trees that it did during the pipeline construction through our town, and a more watchful eye would have been on our forests and wetlands. We cannot go back, only forward, and the mayor is committed to helping the EC promote reforestation throughout Vernon Township. Mayor Murata has once again offered his assistance to help with a new No Net Loss grant in the amount of $354,960, and the EC will definitely be calling on him. The mayor's involvement in the first No Net Loss grant has definitely aided in Vernon's ability to receive this second No Net Loss grant, and I tonight publicly want to thank him on behalf of the Vernon Environmental Commission. I know more than most residents that Vic Murata wants to keep Vernon as pristine and green as possible. And as the chair of the Vernon Environmental Commission, I am delighted to have such a dedicated man to work with on such important environmental issues like protecting the quality of Vernon's water, air, and land. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
My name is Jamie Rickey, William J. Rickey, for the record, I guess. Mayor, Mr. Zuckerman, Council President, council members, good evening and Happy New Year. Haven't seen you all as much as I had in the past, but it's good to be here. This is an issue, actually, that I gave a lot of consideration to because I ran for mayor along with Harry Shortway, myself, Vic Murata, and Sally. We all ran. There were 4 of us on the ballot. So the salary of mayor was something that I thought quite extensively about. And we've had managers in the past. We've had managers with assistants in the past. I I really don't know if the secretarial staff has been over 1, 2, 3 during different times. But the way I looked at it, this form of government requires a business administrator with specific duties that were assigned to the past manager. So I'm going to use the term, and I'm not saying it's a proper term by the law, but the executive branch in this new form of government includes the business administrator. So I think that any salary ordinance really needs to reflect the whole executive branch. In this form of government, we could elect someone with almost no skill set. And they would have to hire someone with a lot of skills to run this town. So I don't think it's fair to the town to set a salary for just the mayor. I really think that it needs to include what's called the Department of Administration. The business administrator definitely is under the supervision of the mayor, but I believe that that Department of Administration is part of the executive branch, as I'm going to call it. And I believe and I don't know how that could be written, Mr. Kelly, but I do believe that that's how we should look at this, as the whole of that. My thoughts at that time were I was going to look back what we spent on managers and assistants, come up with some type of average, and I didn't want to raise the cost of the executive branch to the people of Vernon, but I felt that in that I would probably have to use all the money. And I do want to say that, if anybody has a reason to, hold Mr. Murata to the fire for not being a part-time mayor, it would be me. I would be one with probably the most that had at stake in that, because he ran on a part-time platform, which was obviously going to be a lower cost to the people of this town. But I think he has proven to be a great executive, that, anyone's going to come under fire who's in this position. I surely thought about that before I got in the race, and knew that I could never please everyone. But from what I can see and from everything that I hear, the town is running well. I don't think that the $70,000 is outrageous. In fact, I think it's very fair. I think Sally and I were thinking around the same because we were the full-time mayor candidates. But I really want to impress upon you that the business administrator is part of the administration of this town, and we need to, in the ordinance, consider what could happen in the future in the elections and who we might elect. And do we want to give $70,000 to somebody who has no skill set? It's going to let the town be run by a business administrator. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Did you say uh-oh? Did somebody over here just say uh-oh?
No.
Thank you.
I don't think so.
Good. I don't think so. Good. Mary Ellen Visciconti. And I would like to say that I agree with Jamie because, first of all, in terms of holding somebody's feet to the fire, on the municipal level of government, when you have somebody say that I can run the town on a part-time basis for $500 a week, and that person also says that if elected, my office will be open one night a week, and we should keep Vernon off the front pages, and none of that has happened. Okay? We've been on the front pages almost continuously for stupid stuff. Stupid, stupid, stupid things. 2 years ago, I stood before the town council and I had a written statement regarding the salary ordinance. You take a look at the demographics of the people who live in this town. I spoke to several people already, and they said that $70,000 after 2 years and in this town is insanity. 2 years ago, I called the mayor, and I said to him, you might want to think about vetoing this ordinance, because it looks horrible to the average person working 2 and 3 jobs per household in this economy, when in Sussex County, 1 out of every 5 homes is in foreclosure. Most families I know are working the 2 and 3 jobs. It's insanity. If we don't hold our municipal elected officials' feet to the fire, we might as well turn out the lights, shut the doors, and go home, because this is where the rubber meets the road. And I want to tell you something else, that if you think you're going to pass this ordinance, I can guarantee you that my family will be able to garnish 1,400 votes, almost twice as much, which is needed against the salary ordinance. And this town council better get their act together and finally, once and for all, say, is the job full-time or part-time? I asked Mr. Rizzuto, when he was town council, if they ever made that decision. And you know what he said to me? He said the mayor works full-time. But he never answered the question. He never said, yes, it's in the code. Although he did say that it had been placed in the code. It was never placed in the code. The town council never, ever made a decision about this. And this was something that during the election had morphed into a huge thing. Full-time, part-time, how much is the mayor gonna want? And I don't care, quite frankly, what any of the candidates wanted. Nobody was guaranteed anything. Nobody was guaranteed any amount. You weren't even guaranteed your $3,000. There was no guarantee. I'm saying this, and I hope that sound minds will respond. People will not like this. I believe in what 2 of the other people said before me. Change it next time. The next election cycle, get your act together and come up and specifically say, is the mayoral position full or part-time? And what it's going to be. And I want to say something else, that the numbers that Mr. Tanfield gave, they're inaccurate. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Krista Gary. Unfortunately, I was away when Jean Murphy was sworn in as a new councilwoman, and I wish to congratulate her on obtaining the status. I know that she'll be someone that she doesn't have a personal agenda to benefit herself, but will absolutely be interested in doing what's best for the Vernon residents. Congratulations, Jean.
Thank you.
I just come back from visiting family, and I was absolutely speechless when I saw the front page headlines where Mayor Victor Murata was requesting a huge salary increase. I thought that the mayor's position was that of a public servant, and for him to try to use his power to shape the laws and decide what the laws should be by giving himself a raise is not in the best interest of his constituents. I remember when he was campaigning for his position, he said that this would just be a part-time assignment. This, to me, is a complete arrogance on the part of the mayor to assume that the public would go along with this request after his previous appeal was voted down by the majority of the people. I also have to comment about another issue that has bothered me, and that is the campaigning that was done by the mayor and the incumbents on the Vernon website, and some derogatory statements that were said about the opponents. As mayor, you represent the township of Vernon, and I believe this wasn't at all dignified and befitting the position of mayor. If you want individuals to respect you, you must treat others with the same respect and courtesy. So, thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Barry Martinson. I was going to try and speak last, but she sort of gave me a lead-in. Everyone else has been speaking about the salary and whether it's warranted and stuff. I'm going to leave that because this is just the first reading. However, I have a concern that because the mayor's show was used to promote 2 council members that are on the council now and to negate others that were running, that they cannot vote on this ordinance because it's basically a pay for play. He helped get you in, and now you can't give him money.
Good evening, Sally Rinker Vernon. I did not come here to defend myself tonight, but I would like to set the record straight before I begin to say what I came to say. And that is, 4 people ran for election with the last, with the first elected mayoral attempt. And so Ms. Pfeiffer needs to stand corrected for the record. There were 4 candidates, and I had never, in any way, shape, or form, said any definite figure amount of a salary of the mayor. What I said was, I would like it not to exceed the combination, not to exceed the cost of the management of the town in the prior form of government, and I said it would be the council that would determine the mayoral salary, period. That is what I said, and there is no way, shape, or form anyone can prove I said otherwise. Now, I would like to say I attended the first 2014 budget work session and heard there is a tax increase in the 2014 budget. And the mayor wants a $40,000 increase for himself, bringing his stipend, not salary, to $70,000. The 2 previous years had small tax decreases while Vernon's debt, numbers of employees, salaries, bonuses, and spending all increased. The budgets of the last 2 years and going forward are unsustainable, and therefore tax increases are inevitable, as many of us knew would happen. Mr. Rizzuto, someday soon you might understand why Vernon is the only town in New Jersey that could decrease taxes while increase spending. Quite frankly, we are tired of the shell games with employee positions and our tax dollars. I find it interesting that Mr. Zuckerman, who was set to retire and resigned as CFO, would stay in Vernon with roughly the same amount of work as he was quoted as saying in the paper for $30,000 less. In Florham Park, where Mr. Zuckerman resides and is a council person, they have a $19 million budget in their town, and he and his fellow council members and mayor take zero, nothing, no compensation for their duties there. The reason our form of government requires a full-time business administrator, though, is because the mayor cannot be made to give any set amount of hours of time in an elected position. Brian, it was disappointing that you returned to the council president role. Your less than polite and eager to anger attitude is coupled with the fact that you still don't know how to chair the council meetings properly. And unfortunately, we are paying an attorney $5,000 who all too often sits silent. If you think we are going to sit idly by while you guide the public and council with erroneous comparisons for this increase and ridiculous request for more money by the mayor, you're mistaken. As you have told many, you want to be Vernon's next mayor. Everything you say is full of self-serving motives. We are tired of watching the tail wagging the dog while the wishes of the taxpayers and voters are ignored. You are not immune to a recall, Brian, and I suggest you solicit for fair and honest government now, instead of soliciting for the continued fleecing of taxpayers' dollars. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Howard Whidden. I've known Vic Morata for a long time. I consider him to be a friend. I hope it's reciprocal. I know that we had talked when he was running for the town council originally, and yes, he did say that he thought it would be a part-time job. And I can appreciate that, but at the same time, I also understand that things change. And being in the position, he has found that he needs to devote more hours, and he has stepped up to the plate, and he's put those hours in. I find myself in the position where I'm not too crazy about the idea of this raise, but he does deserve it. What I do have a problem with is the way that the council is going about it. This was put on a referendum for the voters, and I believe it was 89% that turned down the original referendum. And that says something about the wisdom of the Vernon voters. Do I think that they were opposed to everything that was in that referendum question? No. Because I think everybody knows that the road department that we have here in Vernon is one of the finest in the entire state. There are many workers here in the municipal building deserve a raise. They hadn't got one in several years. But you chose to put it all in one ball of wax. Raise for the mayor, raise for the council, plus the raises that should have gone out to the regular employees. Well, you found the way around the will of the voters, I guess, and I think you did it rightfully so, to make sure that the workers were taken care of, the road department, the workers here, the people who really deserved a raise. You did that, and that is good. However, it still leaves a bad taste in the mouth of the people because you did it so quickly after the referendum told you no, very loudly so. And now you're going about it again through the same process. I would suggest that you consider putting some trust in the voters of Vernon. Most people are reasonable, they are logical, and they would support giving the mayor the raise. Put it up as a referendum on the November ballot. Let the people vote on it and tell you whether they think it's deserved or not. I guarantee Mayor Murata would get that raise easily this time. I was a member of the Board of Education for 21 years. Like Mr. Rizzuto, I served as board president. I would remind you that there are two governing bodies in this town, you and the Board of Education, by law. You receive a salary. The Board of Education, with a budget of $70 million, does not. They receive no medical benefits. They're not in any pension system because of their service. They serve because it's an honor to serve the people of Vernon. I hope that after we're done tonight with this whole thing, that in the near future, we're not going to see an ordinance to raise the salary of the council as well. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak?
Barbara Giuseppa, a resident of Vernon Township. Vernon Township is not a small town anymore. We are a growing community with multi-million-dollar budget, and we have a quality mayor that will lead us to progress. I implore each of you, Vernon Township Council members, to establish adequate compensation for this office. We need to compensate this hard-working mayor and also in the future to attract equally dedicated and business-savvy mayors for our town. We need full-time leadership with full-time pay. You gentlemen and lady council members have promised to your fellow residents of Vernon to make decisions that will benefit our community. By approving the compensation of $70,000 a year, which I believe is right, for the office of mayor, you are fulfilling this promise. Miss Sally Rinker, our previous mayor, hired a town manager, a young, inexperienced person who was not connected to Vernon, for $115,000 a year, plus an additional $15,000 in moving expenses. It is your sworn responsibility to do better. Our mayor, Victor Marotta, has proven to this township leadership and dedication equal to none. We all know the long list of his achievements that benefited this community in hard economic times. When hard times come, strong leadership is crucial, and we are lucky to have that in Victor Marotta. Put your personal feelings aside and do what is in the best interest of Vernon. You owe this to us. You owe this to me. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak?
I'm not one for writing a script and reading from it, but I want to be sure that I don't forget anything that I really want to say. I'm not here tonight to talk about what this candidate said and what that candidate said when running for the position of our first elected mayor, because that's really completely irrelevant to the issue at hand. Those of us who are intimately involved in changing our form of government know precisely who said what. I'm here to talk about the office of full-time mayor of Vernon Township, our municipality's CEO that will run the town and its $24 million budget. Many of us who authored and circulated the petition envisioned a full-time mayor because we knew firsthand and we saw how poorly the town was being run. We knew of the 14 years of failure and incompetence in our municipal government with prior councils and managers. We knew there was much work to be done in turning this town around, and many of us envisioned a full-time mayor with a salary of a minimum of $70,000. And many people who are sitting in this room have heard me quote that figure many times during the campaign for our first elected mayor, including our first elected mayor sitting here today. My personal opinion was that the full-time mayor should get a reasonable salary, while the position of business administrator should be made part-time with half the salary that former manager Jerry Gimes was getting. That was my personal opinion for our new form of government. Many of us envisioned an experienced mayor, well knowledgeable in municipal government, would be worth his or her salary for the requirements of a full-time job. The issue tonight is not about the person sitting in the office of mayor today. It's about the position and the responsibilities of a full-time mayor. Perhaps you didn't set those parameters when you first took office, but who says you can't do it now? You, as the council and governing body, have a responsibility to make policy decisions based on the best interest of the township, not based on spite or vendetta, not based on personalities, or even not based on your perception of what you think might be politically correct or politically expedient. I'm here tonight to implore you not to make policy decisions that affect the future of our township based on personality or spite, but rather based on what the salary, the office of a full-time mayor should be. And we all know that Vic Marotta is more than a full-time mayor. With regard to this nonsense of the office not being open one night a week or not being open late, he's here every time I come into the building, during the day, during at night, 7 o'clock in the morning even. But again, I'm not here to speak about Vic Marotta, but about the office of mayor in a mayor, council, manager form of government.
What would we attract in the future if we did not pay the mayor a reasonable living wage that is commensurate with the responsibilities of that office? Please do not marginalize the office of mayor under our new form of government for reasons of spite. But in closing, rather make a policy decision based on the future well-being of our community. We want a full-time mayor, and we want to pay this and future full-time mayors a reasonable salary for the responsibilities of the office of mayor. Because after 14 years of failure and incompetent councils and managers, we now have seen how well this new form of government and a full-time elected mayor works for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Marika Bazone, Glenwood. A lot of fancy words were said. I'm just going to bring it down to the ground. Mayor, council members, it is not a career, it's a service. I don't believe that the money you receive, it's a salary, it's a compensation. I don't believe I've read anywhere in the Constitution that it's a salary. At the end of the day, people will come home and all they will understand from the articles in the newspaper or just talking around the town that in these difficult times, our government is giving themselves raises. And that's the bottom line for ordinary people like myself and anybody there who is out there. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak?
My name is Barbara Saletti. I'm from Highland Lakes, and I just want to second what Mr. Whidden said and the prior woman just said. I feel like it's a slap in the face. We addressed this, we voted about it, and you just arbitrarily, what your reasoning is, I see that you have reasoning behind it, but to just put it forth anyway, to put forth these raises, it's a slap in the face. Put it to the voters. Everyone seems to believe so much in what Mr. Murata is doing, then the voters will vote him a raise.
Please address your comments to the council, okay?
Okay. I've never been down here before.
It's okay.
This is what's motivated me. This is how important this is to me, because I feel it's a slap in the face. I would also like to ask if there's a pension. If Mr. Murata receives a pension, if this would, in effect, raise the pension, so it would be costing the township more money down the road also. And does anybody have the answer to that question?
I can answer it if you want.
Sorry?
I can answer it if
Mayor
you
will
want.
answer.
Okay. Thank you.
I pay into the pension fund from my salary. There is a pension, but you must be 10 years into the pension to receive anything from it. I will not receive anything from it.
Okay, so, I know that you've worked in public service for a while, and thank you for that, but that doesn't add into
No, it
what
does
you will
not.
receive from this. Okay. All right, thank you. And also, I had some questions about if this is the time for that, I had some questions about the bonuses. I understand, because I was curious, because we had voted on the raises for the employees, and they were given bonuses. I understand that I can't get their exact evaluations because that's a personnel record, but could I get the criteria on which they were evaluated for those bonuses?
If you have any questions about the salary bonuses, you need to contact the mayor's office. The council was not
I'm
part
more
of
than
that.
happy to provide anything that you want in regard to that, as long as it doesn't violate personnel law.
Sure, thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? Okay, motion to close the open public comments? Motion made by Councilmember Rizzuto,
Second?
second by Councilmember Wetzel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, move on to the mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to, if I may, ask Mr. Rizzuto to come forward. Pat, on behalf of the Vernon Town Council and the mayor's office, we'd like to present this plaque to you in recognition of your service as Vernon Township's Council President from January 1st of 2013 to December 31st of 2013. I hope that it will be put in a place of honor in your home.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, I just want to add to your comments. Councilmember Rizzuto, you're a stalwart friend and a consummate professional at all times. You're probably the best dressed council member. Have better suits than all of us, even the attorney. We got to talk about that. Anyway, I'd like to say thank you for your service as council president.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I do have a couple of things I'd like to share with the council this evening. I've had several conversations with residents concerning the most recent storms and the fact that the manner in which our roads were not cleared in the way that we've become accustomed to. And there's a reason for it, and I think the public needs to know it. We purchase our salt through the Sussex County Co-op on contract, and we get it for a very good price. However, if any of you saw the article in the Star Ledger and the New Jersey Herald recently, the company that supplies the salt to the Sussex County Co-op is International Salt. And they, in fact, were unable to fulfill our materials that we had ordered because the state has set aside and quarantined a huge amount of salt in anticipation of the Super Bowl. It's just that simple. So as we got to the second storm, after an ice storm and then a break of a day or so and then the snowstorm that came, we had ordered some 2,000 tons of salt, none of which we got. I'm happy to report that that situation has been rectified. As a matter of fact, our salt shed at the present time is quite full. We have caught up, but I know that we've become accustomed to our streets being plowed and being bare shortly after the end of the storm. We absolutely had to ration materials because they were not available for the reason that I've stated. Now, in addition to that, a report this afternoon indicated from Mr. Pullis that we have several small mechanical situations that we're addressing with our trucks. Actually, 5 of them, things like U-bolts that are broken as a result of plowing and the like. We anticipate that they'll be up in a day or two, but the combined issue of some trucks down and materials not available did not keep us up to the standard that we've all come to appreciate. I assure you that that will be addressed and should not happen again. The second issue I'd like to bring to the attention of the council, you will recall that in the beginning of 2013, Vernon Township agreed to join the Nork Watershed Coalition of 10 communities that have watershed property in regard to the manner in which we are allowed to assess them and thereby collect property taxes. There is, I received late this afternoon, too late to distribute to you, but I will in the morning, a proposed bill in the New Jersey Assembly that would in fact rectify the inequity having to do with the way in which our assessors are allowed to assess watershed property, whether it be publicly or privately owned. I would ask when you receive it that you review it. Any questions that you may have or any comments you may have, I would ask that you in fact forward them to me, because the coalition that we belong to will be meeting on February 12th, and we will get an update as to exactly what has happened. But I can tell you that the lobbyist that we hired, the coalition hired, is principally responsible for getting this bill onto the floor of the Assembly. And we're hopeful that with support of our council and the other governing bodies around the state who are affected by this, that we can get some equity in terms of being the stewards for the water supply for the majority of New Jersey residents. I also am happy to report to you several times throughout the year we've discussed the FEMA grant for upgrading of our ultra-high frequency communications within the township. As we speak this evening, the installations of that system are 75% complete. In fact, by the end of the week, we'll be able to say that they're 90% complete because it's a matter of now tuning the radios into the right frequencies, which is going on. It'll be done over at the Vernon Firehouse for all of the emergency services throughout the end of this week. And by February 1st, that new system, which was made available by a $348, I believe, $1,000 grant from FEMA and an additional $38,000 that we matched as a township, we will have a radio communication system that is actually 5 years ahead of what the federal requirements are going to be. We all know that this system is already been legislatively dictated by the federal government for all emergency services communications in the United States. When that comes to pass, we will have already achieved it. The work for that grant was done by Fire Marshal Dave Tynan, and I'm happy to report to the council that we're very close to the completion of that work, and we will all see a very big benefit from it in the manner in which all of our ambulance, fire, and police can communicate. You will recall that near the end of December, we asked for an approval to begin the process of creating digital tax maps for Vernon Township. And you will recall that I reported to the council of my meeting with the tax board along with our tax assessor, Lynn Schweihart. I can tell you that the flyover photograph, first flyover, has been completed. There will be more. Apparently, I'm not up to the technical aspects of this, but apparently there will be more, at which time those flyover pictures will then be created into a pictorial map of Vernon Township, in which the computer geeks will then be able to go to work. And in about 2 years, we will have the first digital tax maps available in Sussex County here in Vernon Township. It should allow for a lot of savings, not only to us, but to the people in town, because ultimately you'll be able to go to our website and go to the tax assessment maps and be able to pull them up and have them available without all of the things that are necessary now. I also want to report that at the end of last week, the generator for the Animal Control Center, which has been on the books for requests have been on the books for some 15 years, is now a reality. And so when the power fails, our friends, our furry friends, don't have to suffer. And so I'm happy to report to you that that has been done. It's complete, and it only took about 15 years of asking to get it done. And the last thing that I'd like to share with you at the next meeting, I will be presenting the State of the Town message, which is required by our administrative code, and at that time we will review the things that we have achieved and the things that we hope to achieve as we go forward in 2014. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Resolution 14-26. This will be a maintenance agreement for Temperature Control Systems Incorporated. They had serviced the system previously and will maintain it as recommended by the DPW director for an amount not to exceed $3,360. Resolution 14-27. This authorizes fireworks at Mountain Creeks for the Special Olympics, which is scheduled for January 27th to celebrate the 2014 Special Olympic Games. Resolution 14-28 will be for the purchase of a thermal imaging camera. The purchase is through a state contract and for 6 cameras utilizing funds from a 2012 firefighter grant. Resolution 14-29 purchase will be a purchase for a search and rescue vessel. The purchase is through 2 state contracts, one for the boat and one for the equipment that goes with the boat for water rescue utilizing funds from that same 2012 firefighter grant. Can I have a motion
So moved.
to accept the agenda, the consent agenda?
So moved.
Well,
Motion
what
made.
about 30 and 31?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one, I'm sorry. 30 is going to be removed because of,
Just going to table it?
actually, no, I don't know what the status is of the person there, so we're going to have to wait. I'm sorry, I missed Resolution 14-31, the acceptance of a deed to the township. The owner of the property has offered to donate this lot to the township, and it is the best interest of the township to accept this deed. The block is 26, the lot is 23J. It's in Highland Lakes.
I would like to put together 26, 27, and 31 and separate the other two.
Okay. Can I have a motion again on 26, 27, and 31?
I just made the motion.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Kadesh. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Murphy. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cate.
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy.
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto.
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel.
Yes.
Council President Lynch.
Yes.
And the only reason I separated them is for your benefit.
You did that for me, Dan?
I did that for you.
You're so kind.
The only question
I kind of knew I didn't vote on them.
I have a
anyway.
question on both of them, okay? The search and rescue vessel, I take it vessel is an inflatable?
Yes.
And it will always be inflated?
No.
How long will it take to put together?
Chief,
If we can.
Chief, how long will it take to inflate the vessel?
Approximately 1 minute.
Oh, okay. And the other question is, why do we need 6 cameras to replace one?
The cameras are being replaced as needed in the fire department with the updated ones. The ones that we have now will show, Fire Marshal has them, both.
Very similar in size to this. And the newer ones that are coming out are very similar to this. What we're doing is we did a study, myself and the fire chiefs got together, and what we're trying to do is make everybody consistent across the board with all 4 departments. This way, no matter what department you're on, if you're told to grab a thermal imaging camera off a piece of apparatus, you're grabbing the same exact one off of any truck. It's the same operation. In zero visibility, you have the same operations to get the battery out in order to change the battery, and the charging mechanisms, components, and parts are all the same. So instead of going for something like this, we're going for something a lot smaller. This also has the ability to range in on a certain area and actually give you the temperature of the area that you're pointing on versus the older technology. The cameras that we are replacing are ranging anywhere from 2000 to 2004. So, you know, you're 14 years back or 10 years back in technology.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve.
Any other council members have any questions? No. Okay. Motion made by Councilmember Kadesh to accept Resolution 1428 and 1428 and 1429. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Rizzuto. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cate.
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy.
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto.
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel.
Yes.
Council President Lynch.
Abstain? Okay, ordinance introduction for the first reading. An ordinance to provide and determine the salary for the mayor of the Township of Vernon. This time, we had quite a few people come up on the public comments, and I think that it deserves to be read in its entirety. Would you please read it for us in our
Sure. Okay, the ordinance reads as follows. Whereas NJSA 40A:9-165 permits a municipality to establish salaries, wages, and compensation to be paid to its officers and employees. And whereas all of the executive and administrative powers of Vernon Township are exercised by its mayor, subject to the procedures set forth in the Mayor-Council Plan of Government under NJSA 40:69A-39, and whereas the exercise of all executive and administrative functions of the township are the responsibility of the mayor pursuant to the Code of Vernon Township, And whereas Section 5-3 of the Vernon Township Code requires that the mayor's executive and administrative responsibilities shall include, among other things, preparation of the municipal budget and the supervision, direction, and control of all departments of the municipal government and its 119 employees, and service on all appointed bodies of the township. And whereas the duly elected mayor of Vernon Township has served in that full-time position since July 1, 2011, with annual compensation of $30,000. And whereas annual compensation of $30,000 is insufficient remuneration for the mayor's full-time service and is not comparable to compensation paid in Sussex County and Northern New Jersey for executive and administrative services of this scope and responsibility. And whereas the Township Council recognizes that an adjustment in the mayor's compensation is necessary and appropriate, commensurate with the critical executive and administrative responsibilities of his full-time position. Now therefore be it ordained by the Township Council of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, and State of New Jersey, they being the governing body thereof, as follows. Section 1, the annual compensation for the mayor of Vernon Township shall be $70,000, effective January 1, 2014.
Thank you, Kevin. This time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance for the first reading. Motion made by Councilmember Rizzuto. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Wetzel. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make a statement.
Okay.
I'm the only elected official here who has served under all three forms of government, i.e. the commissioner form, the Faulkner manager council form, and the strong mayor council form of government. The committee form is the most democratic. Each department within the town hall is assigned to a committeeman or a woman, police commissioner, fire commissioner, health commissioner, DPW commissioner. I held many of these posts. An appointed commissioner had direct access to many of the complexities of running the department he or she was assigned to. While not in charge of that department, we could often mediate and resolve issues within that area. As a liaison to the governmental body, we brought a familiarity, expertise, and information to be shared by all. The manager-council format transferred some of that power to the town manager, who could incidentally be fired without cause if the council felt the manager was remiss and did not carry out policies outlined by the council. Council could not interfere with the town manager. Unfortunately, both of these forms, as practiced, were controlled by a strong partisan interest. As a part of that control, the county committee made frequent appointments to fill vacated council positions. Positions were filled to satisfy the whims of the machine and the powerful. These vacancies were not filled through elections. Council members often knew no history and the demeanor and the rationale necessary to make competent decisions. Of greater importance, the chaos and polemics of the day made it impossible for the manager, business administrator to survive. They went to jail or they resigned. The third form of government, the mayor-council, centralizes all the power in the mayor's office with very few checks and balances. This mayor condenses his power even more by running with and supporting candidates who later carry out his policies rather than eliciting policies from the council and respecting their prerogatives. Furthermore, he increases his control by hiring professionals who were founders of the Skylands Victory Political Action Committee, who also contributed to his and his candidates' campaigns. Each change of government has eroded the democratic participation of the governing body, and the change 2.5 years ago has all but destroyed the credibility and faith in our ability to run our town efficiently and fairly. Our mayor wants an increase in pay. I cannot use the word salary because Victor Marotta isn't an employee. He's an elected official charged with an executive role. In less than 2 years, that role terminates. As an elected official, according to the governor's edict, he's not even supposed to have health benefits. He's not a corporate president. As a council, we do not assess his performance or present him with a 6-figure bonus at the end of the year. As an elected mayor, he is dependent on the same people to make decisions as I am as a council member, our hired professionals, the people with the MBAs, the engineering degrees, the law degrees, and the RMCs. They're the gatekeepers to provide the foundations of which we make our policies and our decisions. It's incumbent that the council and the mayor rely on our paid professionals to make professional fees, who make professional fees. You can't replace expertise with political power. To put it simply and succinctly, you don't run for public office for the big bucks. You run for the betterment of the town and to serve the residents who live here. I oppose the introduction of this ordinance and any increase in the salary.
Any other comments?
When you look at the responsibilities of the mayor and you compare it to others in the area who have the same responsibilities, there is no comparison. Town administrators or mayors, for example, in the following 4 towns: Hardyston, $155,040. Apatcong, $121,500. Sparta, $132,600. Wantage, $122,946. Time is money. Mr. Marotta puts in countless hours. He deserves the raise. And I'm tired of hearing a dead horse beating about this salary that was voted down 2 years ago. That's history. Stop beating a dead horse. I vote yes.
Council members?
I'd like to speak.
Sure.
I actually did some of my own research, and I'd just like to point out that after the election this past November, there were many voters that actually reached out to me to offer congratulations and wish me luck. Not all of these people were supporters, but nonetheless, they reached out. One person in particular said, "Congratulations on your win to the Vernon Township Council. You're a hard worker, and you do your own research, so I think you'll be a good council member." They'll be happy to know that I'm doing my research. First of all, I was curious, who drafted this ordinance?
I did.
Thank you. This document that was provided to the council at the January 9th work session listed 22 towns along with business administrators and town managers. And that was the list that Councilman Kadish was reading off of. It was a list of managers and business administrators, not mayors. The mayor is an elected official. Mr. Ondish, mayor of Mount Arlington, was one of the speakers at the New Jersey League of Municipalities seminar I attended this past Saturday. He said, "Elected officials are transient. Your professional staff are supposed to be steady. They are your employees." I have prepared a list of Faulkner Act mayor-council towns. This list includes the town, county, population, budget, salary of the mayors, and the mayor's name. And I use the word salary because it's interchangeable. While doing my research, I came across some very interesting information. Brighton County, located in Cumberland County, or I should say Brighton City, has a population of 25,439, a 2014 proposed budget of $23 million, and Mayor Albert Kelly is paid $13,000. He just received a raise a couple years ago from $10,000. Edison Township, located in Middlesex County, has a population of 99,967, a budget of $118 million, and Mayor Thomas Lanky is paid, and it's between 39 and 49, and where I'm coming up with this number is the fact that there's inconsistencies, and I was not able to get up the salary ordinance, but it's one of those, even if we call it 49. In February of 2013, their council repealed a section of an ordinance that made the mayor's position full-time. I have the article. It was in the Centennial. It says, Mayor of Edison, a full-time job, but not by law. Council repeals section of ordinance that made mayor a full-time position. In 2005, John Choi, mayor-elect at the time, made a few requests. Those included a salary hike and changing the mayor's position in Edison from part-time to full-time. Choi's annual salary increased in 2008 from $49,000 to $75,000. The same discussion has surfaced in 2013, an election year for current Mayor Antonia, Rigliano, said she is running for a second term. When she came into office in 2010, she rolled back her salary to $49,000. The Township Council and the public had a spirited discussion at the January 24th council meeting in regards to an ordinance amending the requirement that the mayor serve in a full-time capacity. Council President Robert Deal said the ordinance should not have even been changed to require that the mayor serve full-time because it was not allowable by law. We weren't told by previous councils that this was not able to be done, he said. And when he says councils, he's not talking about the governing body, he's talking about the attorney. Township Attorney Carl Kem said that under the Faulkner Act, which is the basis of Edison's government, the ordinance as written cannot be enforced. The council on January 24th voted to amend the ordinance, so they were taking out the section that would deem it acceptable. This section states, service to the residents of Edison Township requires that the mayor serve a full-time capacity wherein the position of the mayor shall be in his or her primary occupation dedicated to the affairs of Edison Township. During his or her term in office, the mayor shall not maintain or secure any other full-time employment. That section of that ordinance was repealed and removed. Deal said redacting wording from the ordinance will open up the pool of people who may run for the position of mayor. It also allows voters to decide and take a hard look at the candidates, he said. Rockaway Township, located in Morris County, has a population of 24,156, a budget of $28 million, and Mayor Michael Dachison is paid $8,300. Councilperson Rizzuto made a comment at the work session on January 9th. He said the mayor works full-time. If he didn't, he couldn't get health benefits. So today I called the Center for Government Services located in Rutgers University, and I spoke to Dr. Riak. He confirmed again that there is no such thing as full-time, part-time. It is not enforceable by law. He agrees that if the mayor is receiving health benefits, the council would have had to vote on them. It's not something you can just take. You don't automatically get it because you say you're working full-time. This council should not be voting on an ordinance that changes the law and alters history back to July 1st, 2011. After doing my own research, I know this ordinance is not legal and cannot be enforced. The council should not ignore the 9,136 voters that said no to all raises last time.
Do you have any comments?
Excuse me, it's quite apparent that people have very selective memories. And I'm going to take you back to meetings that were held right after the election of this council, exclusive of our new council lady, along with Mr. Dunn, thank you. And that meeting included our council member, Kadish. I'm very upset, because, and I'm having problems with some of the names because I'm being upset, because at that meeting, there was a definite discussion addressing the mayor's salary. And I distinctly remember that the mayor was addressing Mr. Dunn, who had suggested and said, Mayor, I think you really need to have a salary that's in line with what is incumbent upon the responsibilities that you're going to find. And the mayor at that time said, thank you, Ed, but I don't know what we're going to find when we take office. I don't know if this community could afford more than just a token salary. If, in fact, after I review the books, I am sure that we are able to afford a salary increase, I will bring it to the council's attention and we can address that. That seems to have been forgotten. The whole comment of it's part-time and I'll run on the basis of $500 a week was part of a comment taken out of context in campaign rhetoric. And we all know what campaign rhetoric means, don't we? Now you have a mayor who's put in 2.5 years, and you have a track record. You have a track record of 2 budgets that have been brought to the community that have seen tax decreases. Yet this evening, we heard from our former mayor that, the tax decreases were minimal, but a 2-cent increase this year is significant. I find the logic very, very, illogical. So I think it should be known, because it was pointed out that we need to review the requirements, the responsibilities of our mayor. Well, that was done, and it was done with Mr. Kadish, along with Mr. Kelly. We met as a subcommittee of the council to develop the administrative code. And that administrative code codifies all of the responsibility of the office of the mayor. And if you were to look at an organizational structure put forth by an MBA, I happen to be one. I've been schooled in business, contrary to what some other people have talked about of some of our employees who were also well-schooled. All of the responsibilities of our township employees, their supervisors and department heads, all flow through the office of the mayor. He is the chief executive officer. We don't talk to his employees. We are not permitted to talk to his employees. It's the mayor's responsibility to address all problems that we bring to his attention. So to say that those responsibilities are vague is incorrect. And to address Mrs. Murphy's comment that this is not a full-time job, when we developed the administrative code, we also did not say that the chief of police is a full-time job. It's assumed. We didn't say the chief financial officer is a full-time job. It was assumed. We didn't say the tax assessor was a full-time job. It was assumed. And when the comment is made that Dr. Riak said the council has to vote the issue of benefits, the council is proscribed from allowing an employee who is not full-time to obtain benefits. Hence, none of the council members can obtain benefits. I contend that the mayor is a full-time employee. And to address the issue that this council is not able to make a vote or establish a vote on this ordinance because of the previous referendum,
again, I need to take issue because I've done my research. And the research states that in test case, Lettieri versus Bayonne, that a succeeding referendum can be put up if necessary, and therefore allowing the mayor to receive a salary increase is not denied by virtue of the failure of the previous referendum. Attorney Counsel, am I correct?
Absolutely correct, and that's been upheld by appellate division cases subsequent to that ruling.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Kelly,
Yes,
On the
ma'am.
contrary,
Oh, it's the second
moment,
one.
I have the floor.
thought you were done.
No, I'm not done. I'll let you know when I finish.
Oh, my God.
The council is responsible for making these decisions. It was brought up that perhaps in a editorial that we ought to employ a citizens advisory group. We have a citizens advisory group. It's the 5 of us. We were elected by the people to make a decision, not to defer a decision. I have. When we came into office, we found on a number of occasions, situations that cost this township money because those situations were deferred. The can was kicked down the road. I point out again the issue of Main Street Associates with an illegal taking. I point out the fact that the council, this township, had to resolve a legal issue emanating from a personnel matter because previous council had not provided the appropriate training, and hence we, as the new council, could not point to that as a way of avoiding a loss of money and having to satisfy the amount of money as prescribed by our. Once it is understood that this government is totally different than any other type of government, and that the mayor functions as a chief executive officer, he does not delegate, he is not able to delegate his responsibilities. Those responsibilities are his alone by virtue of the administrative code that was approved by this council unanimously. So to hear these comments brought up and to be asked to hold off in making a decision until the next time around, I'm sorry. If you don't like my decision, don't vote for me again. Very simple. That's the way this form of government works. If you don't like what the decisions come out, how they're made, then it's up to you to change the council, change the elected official. But at this point, I'm doing what I feel is the right thing. Yes, I consider the mayor to be a good friend, a very good friend. But I would not let my friendship interfere with making a correct decision on the part of this community, as our esteemed councilperson has stated. Mr. Kadish should know better. I've been involved in many greater decisions involved in much more significant financial areas than to worry about a $40,000 increase in the mayor's salary. What I am concerned about is what Ms. Corzeppa talked about, Mrs. Pfeiffer talked about, Mrs. Palladini talked about, that we need to look at what this office is going to look like when my good friend Victor is gone, when we're not here. Mr. Rickey pointed out, this type of government doesn't provide for any filter for any type of skill set. Someone very, very underprepared could sit in that chair and create a lot of damage. I think we need to understand that this big
this continuing conflict, this continuing area of division that is being perpetrated on our community is not being done out of intellectual honesty, but rather out of political vendetta. Mayor, I don't know what else I can say. You have my total and complete support on this. I think it's the right thing to do, whether you're my friend or not.
Under the previous council manager form of government, this township hired township managers in excess of $100,000 a year. Some didn't think it was enough and needed to go to jail for it, too. When this government changed the way, when the previous form of government changed to the current form of Faulkner, the responsibilities of that township manager just did not go away. They did not get filtered through the building, and they are not being done by 12 people. They're still being done by one person. He may authorize the business administrator to do certain tasks, but at the end of the day, the mayor can give authority, but he can't give away responsibility. And he's responsible, and this idea of full-time or part-time, when you're elected mayor, you're mayor all the time. And when you get those calls at 3 o'clock in the morning, you'll know that. If the mayor was being given an ordinance to raise his salary for $5, some would not take that. And it's very evident that this is a personal swipe against the mayor. We have to decide this as a council, not for Vic Marotta, but for Vernon Township. This is what we were elected to do. Each and every person that came here tonight has their opinion on how this should go. And everybody that wanted to speak was able to speak. Some were making misguided statements, and it is not us to challenge your misguided statements. But I do want to make one thing perfectly clear. This council does not get a pension, and this council does not get health benefits. The mayor gets health benefits, and the mayor makes a miserable salary. No one in this room could live on that type of money. And especially with the stress levels that he is subjected to every day. And it's not just Vic Marotta that this money is being allocated towards. It's all future mayors as well. Some may say, you have an idea of running for mayor? After seeing this, I don't think so. And I'll be quite honest with you, I don't think anybody else in this room could do that job as mayor for $30,000. And if you say you can, I'd like to see it in action. Run for mayor and do it then. That's all I have to say right now.
I have a question, Mr. Kelly. Is Mayor Marotta an employee of the township?
He is an elected official.
Is he an employee? I know he's an elected official.
Let me think about that, please.
Can't be
Jean.
fired.
I don't have my code book with me. I want to take a look at it.
Oh, and I didn't get a code book yet.
You didn't? Okay. No, I want to look up the code and answer that better
you
than
know
off the
what?
top of my head.
I think I might have a copy of it, if you'd like to see it. I made copies. I went online and made copies. I can show it to you right now, actually.
Jean, he's an elected official, and
He's an elected official, because if he would have had to have been hired if he was an employee. That's all I'm asking, because we're, and I have to say, I agree with the editorial that the Herald put out. It's not about, to me, it's not about the person in the seat. It's about the position. That's what it's about. And all I'm asking, whether he's an elected official or an employee, you're not both. And if he's an employee, I'd like to know what date he was hired, and I'd like to see his contract. But he's not an employee, that's all I'm saying. And that's what my question to you is.
And I'd like to make a rebuttal that there's been suggestion that this is out of spite, and revenge, whatever. Everybody who knows me knows that I'm not a spiteful individual. This is not about Victor Marotta. This is about the issues that I brought up. And I think it's necessary to really tear it apart and look at the real issues and then decide. And I don't think that's been done.
The idea that it's not about Vic Marotta is laughable, because that's the only name that's being brought up tonight. And Councilmember Kadish, with all due respect, you even referenced in your statement about the mayor's job performance.
Yeah, I said we don't assess it.
You referenced how he did things in there, too.
We don't assess the mayor's performance
I
because...
wasn't-
I'm sorry.
I wasn't done yet. Let's take a look at all the other towns. There isn't one like Vernon. No other government changed governments in the last 2 years and had to deal with the constitutionality of a ordinance. If that is the case, I would listen to those people. We changed forms of government. We had a manager that had run this town with an assistant in most times. I think there were two of the most recent ones. Jerry did not have an assistant town manager, but Melinda did,
Which are on a deferred.
and Don Teolis did.
You're on a different.
Okay? The mayor is doing every single thing that the manager did. Not one person got up and said the township manager is making too much money. In fact, the previous mayor is the one that authorized the township manager to get in excess of $100,000.
Point of order.
You have no point of order. This is not your meeting.
Point of order.
You have no point of order. Please be quiet.
Point of order.
Please be quiet. I'm asking you one more time to be quiet.
Kevin, please.
Please sit down.
It's a five-member.
You have no point of order. At this time, that's all I have to say.
I'd like to point out that, as Mr. Kadir said, evaluating the mayor, I believe something along those lines. We don't, because the mayor doesn't report to us. The mayor is a directly elected official who reports only to one group of people, those people who elected him. Unfortunately, the last time around, in terms of the salary referendum, council did a poor job. It really did in not selling it, but informing the people as to why it should occur. I also think that at this point, there's a record that we can point to. And I find it difficult, I think really difficult to understand, that with the level of responsibility that the mayor has, that his salary or his remuneration is not commensurate with that level of responsibility. I believe Mrs. Pfeiffer mentioned that term, Mrs. Palladini mentioned that term, Mrs. Corzetta also. It is very, very obvious. How can you ask a man to evaluate, be responsible for, budget for, and handle the course of action and the course of growth for a community
for $30,000 a year. That individual is the lowest paid member in the employ of the township. Now, whether you call it an employee because he was hired or an employee because he was elected, he takes a stipend or salary from the community, from the township form of government. To me, that's an employee. And according to the law, only if you work full-time can you get those benefits. But to say that you expect somebody to stay here for that salary is ridiculous. I believe Councilman Wetzel told me that 65%.
65% of the American working force
Makes
over $30,000.
over $30,000 a year. And they're not responsible for the people in this community. And one of the things that has been forgotten is that the mayor, as our chief executive officer, is responsible for the growth of this community. And he's done a good job because he's schooled in the area of business. He's proven himself in the area of business by past experience. And now you want to take advantage of it by not compensating that person who occupies that seat, that area of responsibility, with a salary that is $20,000 less than that of a starting teacher? I find it difficult to understand, and more than that, I find it difficult to understand how anyone who professes to be intellectually honest, to be able to put aside a personal vendetta, a personal animus towards the individual holding the office, cannot understand that logic. And I think I've said it.
One thing, and it was. Excuse me.
Can you please stop? Please stop. Stop interrupting, please. I appreciate that.
Excuse me, but as everybody is saying that, this shouldn't become personal, it shouldn't become personal. We were all present at the work session when Mayor Murata point blank said, well, I did not want you to get elected. So if somebody's making it personal, please.
That's political, not personal.
Okay.
At a budget work session meeting,
You asked the
Budget
question
work
and I
session
answered you
meeting?
honestly.
at a budget work session meeting.
I did
it
not
was
support
personal.
Please call the roll, please, can I have a motion to accept or a motion to adopt?
Ordinance 14-01?
Yes.
I believe I made that motion.
Motion made by
second,
Councilmember Rizzuto, second by Mr. Wetzel. Will you please call the roll?
To introduce at first reading.
Yes.
Thank you.
Introduce this at first reading. There'll be more of the
Public
public
hearing.
hearings at this next council meeting. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cage?
No.
Councilmember Murphy?
No.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Lang?
Yes. Okay, council comments. Councilmember Murphy?
I don't know, I always have something to say. When I was at the class the other day at the New Jersey League of Municipalities, Attorney William Kearns, he was one of the guest speakers there, and what he spoke about was the judge's ruling in the Bergen County case in Maplewood, or actually it was Midland Park, sorry, it was in Midland Park, with that Oprah case as far as, it was the Board of Education, and I believe what happened is Judge Doyne ruled that attachments must be adhered to or attached to agendas because basically electronically because basically they're useless if there's no attachments. And even though it's subject just to Bergen County at this time, the attorney, William Kearns, he said that in his opinion, that even though this decision is exclusive to Bergen County, Judge Doyne is highly regarded throughout the state, and he expects it to follow throughout other counties. So in his suggestion was that everybody should just pretty much follow suit in order to avoid any further litigation with Oprah, and I did actually mention it to Kevin Kelly, and he's quite aware of this judge and things that happen. Something else I would like to mention is that as a council person, you should really not have to find out what's on an agenda from the newspaper or from a reporter. However, I'd like to thank Mr. Jennings for letting me know that this ordinance was going to be on the agenda, but that's not really how it should, how it should be happening. I mean, he spoke to you and he spoke to Mr. Murata, to Mayor Murata that evening, and then he called me, and I was informed by him that the salary ordinance at Wednesday night was going to be on today's agenda. So that really shouldn't be done that way.
The reporter asked me if there's going to be a proposed salary ordinance, and I said I wasn't aware of that.
Well, he called me up and told me it
Well,
was on.
not everything that you say to the reporters gets
Well,
in
it
the
was on
paper
it,
either.
but it was on it, so when it came through, it was on it, so.
I understand how you feel, but not everything that a reporter
Well,
asks you gets put on the paper.
And I don't have the article here, but I'm just letting you know that,
You'll find
I
out.
should not have to find out from a newspaper, from a
Good enough.
reporter. That's all I have to say.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Oh, I've said enough already.
Okay. Councilmember Rizzo?
The only thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank council for this wonderful plaque and for the mayor's gracious words. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Councilmember Wetzel?
No comment.
I do have to thank and give a congratulations to the fire departments. Between McAfee, Pochuck, and Highland Lakes, they've been responding to quite a few calls. I believe there was a considerable call over on Pleasant Valley Drive on Saturday or Sunday. And we thank you for your service.
Council President, if I may, I'd like to thank them also. I'm standing in my bedroom, I had shaving cream on my face, it was a Sunday morning, and I hear the fire trucks running up our street and Telford Drive, and the siren and the horns, and how often do you realize something like this happens in your neighborhood? 2 houses down, very good friends, neighbors, their smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector went off, and the fire department was there along with our police department to make sure everyone was safe and the situation was taken care of. They did it professionally, they did it rapidly, they did it safely, and they did it friendly. My compliments to them as well. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second?
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Rizzuto, second by Councilmember Wetzel. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good night, everybody.